Hey, it's me. I'm live. Hang on, I'm trying to get this in order. Okay. Oh, wow. Life with a newborn. What else can I say? I mean, a lot, obviously. I can say a lot. Okay, I'm gonna go over a couple of things here. Hey, wow. Bloodnose is here. And I wanted to talk a little bit about Purim. I wanted to talk a little bit about a couple of comments that I received recently. Long time, he says. Glad to see you are well. Yes, I am well. Thank God. It's a wonder. It's a wonder. It truly is. Blood knows. What have you been up to? You say a long time. Indeed. And what have you been doing? Tell me things. Okay, so a couple of comments from the last few days. I posted a short on the 7th of Adar, traditionally the anniversary of the birth and death of Moses. And Sneezer said, "Way to worship the dead." And I replied, "How did I worship the dead?" He said, "Moses is dead." I said, "Yes, but where is the worship?" And he says, "Celebrating his birth and death, are you not?" And I asked him, is that tantamount to worshiping? And so we differ. That's what we figured out on what worship means. I'll give you my definition, since he asked. My definition of worship, I say, is making offerings to an individual as though they were God, deifying a person in general, praying to an individual as though they were God. And I don't consider, I told him, admiration, emulation, and things of that nature. I don't consider that to be worship. There's a difference, and if it is worship, it is still on a human level and not as a deity, as a god, and that makes a big difference. People, prophets, messengers, priests, everyday folk, they can be sources of inspiration, people you find qualities about that you would want to implement in your own life, right, in yourself and acquire. You may even, and we see this in the Bible, you may even bow or prostrate yourself all the way down to the ground. It still doesn't make that other person a god. And that's where it breaks down for me. And he said, I take a more global definition. To worship, said Sneezer, is to show a lot of love and adoration for something. Religious believers worship gods, and people can worship other people and things too. So, yes, of course, that can be. This is something the Torah says should not be. So don't worship anything in creation. Worship the Creator, right? Not the heavens, not the earth, not the water, not anything that's tangible. Okay. Hey, so Ariel is here. My woman is here. Mr. Big is here. Hey, can we talk quickly? Can we discuss Kabbalah? Sure thing, Mr. Big. What sort of Kabbalah would you be interested in discussing? Just working, getting out of winter funk. Spring is soon, my friend. Yes, it is. Spring is soon. I'm so happy about that. We need the rain. Winter obviously has its place, but I'm such a summer person. Truly, I am. And a winter funk. Do you get seasonal affective disorder? Do you get the winter blues on a regular basis? I used to in recent years, and I've spoken of this in previous streams. In recent years, it hasn't been that way. But I'm very happy whenever winter ends and spring and summer arrive. Something in me opens up more. Do you know Kabbalah Idrazuta? Well, do I know Kabbalah? I'm a student of the Tree of Life. I'm not a Kabbalist. As for the Idrazuta, it's one of 3 Idrot in the Zohar, and times when certain teachings were brought down. So the Idra Zuda, if I'm not mistaken, is in Parashat Truma. The Idra Rabbah is in Parashat Naso. And okay, what about the Idra Zuta would you like to discuss? And Chassidut, right? Chassidism, going back to the Baal Shem Tov, and they say about Chassidism, Derech Yeshana Chadasha. It's a new old path. Because on the one hand, Chassidism, right, since the latter half of the 20th century, of the second millennia, has been a thing. First, there was great controversy and everything, and now Hasidism is pretty much accepted all over. Maybe disputed in some cases, but definitely accepted as like a mainstream and a mainstay facet of Judaism. But it harkens to something more ancient. And speaking of Kabbalah, right? Hasidut is all about how Kabbalah can be done here and now, not in the sense of practical Kabbalah, Kabbalah Ma'asit, but of how do you bridge that heaven and earth? How do you become Jacob's ladder? I don't do Tanya. I love Chumash. Well, Tanya is the one of the primary books of Chabad, written by the Alter Rebbe, the first Rebbe of Chabad. And well, let's put it this way: I love Chumash as well. I'm not versed in Tanya, though I enjoy its teachings. I've spoken to many Chabadniks over the years, and Tanya seems to be a really powerful and um, influential book. But I also love Chumash. I do. For the five books of Moses, that's what it all comes back to as far as I'm concerned. It all points back to the five books of Moses and things that need to be derived from there, lived there. Ariel says, but Mr. Big, question. What about the Idrazuta? What about Kabbalah? Why don't you do Tanya? And what is it that makes you love Chumash? Says Ariel, how are you guys managing with the new addition to your family? Things getting any easier? Well, easier in the sense that I am now finally on maternity. Well, not she's done with maternity leave, and I'm on paternity leave. In Israel, they give you the option of sharing the parental leave, and we did it with the last kid, and we're doing it with this kid. So I, for the next 2 months, don't need to work. If there's something pressing, I told them they can send me a chat, and I'll, But basically, I'm not working. I'm getting paid for the next 9 weeks to be with my woman, to be with the kids, to be here, present, and without my mind on work and how many hours and this and that. So, how are we managing? Thank God we have some experience with raising newborns, and that experience is invaluable. We also have older kids that help us, and it's wonderful, and that is always a plus. So, how are we managing? Wonderfully, beautifully. Look, it's tense with a newborn, even if it's, even if it's still a real, with the sleep deprivation and your life changing, and you're on a newborn schedule, and it's not easy, but we are managing. I have my moments, where I'm angry and I burst out, and I raise my voice, and I need to really, really keep that in check. And having a newborn, as I've said before, brings different things to the surface because of everything going on. But I think we are doing very well. Thank God. I give so much thanks to the Most High God. Midrash is cool. Rambam and Ramban. Midrash is cool, right? There's Midrash Halacha and Midrash Agada. The Midrash. I've been told by those who know him a lot better than I do that you need to know how to read Midrash in the sense that you don't think it's literal, and you need to know what to take out from it. Let's leave it at that. Rambam, right? Maimonides, Ramban, Nachmanides. Ramban, they say, was the last Kabbalist to truly hold, let's say, to the more ancient teachings. And after the Ramban, Rabbi Moshe ben Nachmanides, after him, they say, things started to sort of not degrade, but they say that he was one of the last Kabbalists of the old age that brought that down. Now, of course, I'm in the opinion of the Ramak Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, being at least more recent than Nachmanides, that person who brought things down, set things right, planted the orchard for those who follow. I can get my rabbi to discuss and explain Ein Yaakov. Wait. What do you mean I can get my rabbi to discuss and explain? Are you talking about... By the way, Mr. Big, I don't know if you're referring to the band. I think I've asked you this before. Were you here before? Maybe someone else by the name of Mr. Big, but the name, even though Mr. Big, there are many Mr. Bigs, but it always throws me back to the 90s. Hold on, little girl. Right? I'm the one who wants to be with you. Okay. I love Chumash also, says Ariel. Yeah. Yep. Mr. Big says, the Ze'er Anpin gets me confused. Well, what do you mean? What is confusing about Ze'er Anpin? Two things. First, are you talking about Partzuf Ze'er Anpin? Or are you talking about Ze'er Anpin as Tiferet in the Ten Sfirot and the masculine divine presence? The male, right? The yang. So which one is it? Can you read Zohar Chadash? I mean, I can, but what do you mean? I have a Zohar in my home and I could read it, but what do you mean? Also, how much of a fan are you of Zohar? Do you believe that all of the Zohar Chadash and the different and the additions, do they still count as Zohar as far as you're concerned? No, Mashiach was in Yeshahu 45:1. Yes, this is me, Mr. Yehudi or Yaakov. El. Yes, says Mr. Big. I'm not sure what exactly that's referring to. I mean, so wait, Mashiach, we weren't talking about Mashiach. Incidentally, no, I'm sorry, Mr. Big. I asked you a few things on. Yes, okay, so let's go. I asked you a few things, if you want to continue the chat. What precisely about the Idrazuta? What is it precisely? Zeranpin is his right. I'm not sure if I know what you mean. Zeranpin is a part of the divine revelation, also in the image of God as people, right? As human beings, as the tree of life. It exists as the male. It exists as leaning more to. I mean, how is it that you? What is it that confuses you about Zeranpin? And again, is it the Partzuf Zeranpin or the Sfira of Tiferet? How do you mean? Do you mean the Lurianic view or the pre-Ari Lurianic view? Can you read Zohar Chadash Bereshit? Again, I could, but I'm not going to read it sort of on air because I'm assuming most people don't know the Aramaic, and it would be me translating the Aramaic on the fly. And while I can read it and understand almost all of it, I guess, but not the nuance, translating the Aramaic on the fly might be a little difficult. And if you want to discuss certain things, certain passages, then by all means, give them to me and I'll look them up and next time I go live, I'll address it. But I don't think I'm going to read Zohar Chadash on air. But maybe I will. I don't know. Maybe I'll do a separate video where I read it. What precisely do you have which line, what number line? Ariel says that's nice that you have some more time to spend with each other now. When my son was born, we had no money and the circumstances were extremely challenging, so I had to work ridiculously long hours. I've been there with my firstborn, which was 13 years ago. And yeah, I was working security at the time, and I was in my second and final year of film school, screenwriting track. So it's not the 4 years for directors, 2 years. And the first one was challenging as well. I mean, a newborn that's a firstborn is challenging however you look at it. Ariel says, and was never able to spend any time with my son, especially. Sleep deprivation sucks. Well, I'm sorry to hear that you couldn't spend the time. I hope that your family appreciates the sacrifice, and I hope that you are able to reconcile that desire and understand that what's that. I mean, that was a long time ago, presumably, and it's important to spend time. Right? What did Don Corleone say to Michael? He says, "A man who doesn't spend time with his family is not a real man." Now, far be it from me to judge, but I've been very, very privileged and delighted and honored over the years to spend time with my family and be there. Having the ability to work from home at the drop of a hat, always pretty much, and be a digital nomad is a great blessing, truly. And I love the fact that I am able to be here more. I think it's really important for the connection between parents and kids, and I think that at some point he's going to go into daycare, a small daycare, one that we love, that we know already. But at some point he will. We're not sure when. Probably next year. But we have this first year of being with him more, a lot more, and being there all the time. It's such an amazing, amazing thing to have a newborn in the house. It's it can be truly a psychedelic experience, and not just because of the sleep deprivation, but because you're all blah, and but really all the hormones and everything that's everything about it. And there are times when it's like real suffering for your kids, and we do it. We do it. There are some things that you should not outsource if you can afford it. And if you obviously need to, then yeah, sure, get a nanny, do what you need to do. No judgment. But if you can afford, as I've been able to at times, sometimes more than others, to be there with the kids, it's a blessing of immeasurable quality. Okay, can you read Zal Chadash verse 5? Okay, let's see. That I can look up. So wait, which Zal Chadash? Is it Shir Hashirim, Ruth? Which one? Which Zal Chadash? You know what? Hang on a second. Let's see. Zal Chadash. Okay, so which one is it? I don't have the book. I'm not going to go downstairs and get the book right now. But please, wait. You know what? Can you copy and paste the verse in the chat? I think that would be more helpful than me trying to find it here. Verse 5. But yes. But Zohar Chadash, what is it? Is it Ruth, Shir Hashirim? Is it one of the Torah portions? Because I don't have the book in front of me. Zohar Chadash, what? You know what? I'll look for it in Hebrew. Oh, well, Aramaic. Hold on. Let's see. Zohar Chadash. Okay. Bereshit. Bereshit, verse 5. Verse 5? There are no verses. There are lines in Zohar. Okay. So wait, so do you mean line 5? What do you mean? It's the first page, the fifth verse. Okay, hang on. ויאמר אלוהים יהי אור, אמר רבי יצחק, מכאן משמע דאקרן קודשא בריחו הנתן ושתלון, דכתיב יהי. ויהודה אומר אור שכבר היה תנן. משמע דכתיב ויהי אור, זה היה לכתיב אלא ויהי. not והיה ויהי. אוקיי. וכד הסתכל על קודשא בריחו בינון דרין דרשיע, זה לא התחזון לה ונהור הגניז לה. הדאו דכתיב וימנם רשעים אורם. ולמען גניז לה לצדיקאיה דווקא. כלומר דכתיב אור זרוע לצדיק ולשרי לב שמחה, ויאמר אלוהים יהי אור, הדאו דכתיב מהעיר ממזרח. ממזרח. Okay, so is that the fifth one? Wait, hold on. 1, 2, 3, okay, 4. There we go. וירא אלוהים את האור, כי טוב מה ראה, מה רבי יחיה כמו שאמרנו. I hope you guys are following with me. ראה את מעשה הרשעים וגנז אותו, אמר רבי אבא אמר, וירא אלוהים את האור, כי טוב לגנוז אותו. שלא נמצא בו רוגז, כתוב הבדל, okay, and 5, okay. Is it the verse, is it the line that starts, come and behold, come and see the upper light, the light shines? Is it, are we talking about the right one? Okay. Okay, so the Zohar says that in the beginning, when God said, let there be light, there is a difference of opinion between the sages of the Zohar. One say that it's a new light, and some say that it was an old light that was simply moved. And they say that when God looked and saw the different people who, right, the wicked people of the generations that would not be, well, that would not be worthy of that light, that he hid it. He hid it for the righteous. In other words, much like that light of the tree of life that is now hidden and under guard, well, if not hidden, then under guard, and we will only merit it later on through our own righteousness. In the same way, there was that primordial light. Now, Yehi Or Vayehi Or, it doesn't say Yehi Or Vehaya Or, it says Yehi Or Vayehi Or, two different lights. Yehi Or Vayehi Or, let there be light and let there be light. Not let there be light and there was light, says the Zohar. So it's two different lights. One that was sort of there, but then taken back. And in this, we see, of course, this echo of the Tzimtzum, right? The Lurianic Tzimtzum, on how God, in the beginning of creation, right? It was all divine, and then there was sort of a space that was vacant, and then there was a line of light, right? Chut katan. And the idea of a light that we in this world are not privy to. It's something that will be given later on, something like that. And it's through this bringing and taking away that later finite life as we know it here on earth was able to come about eventually. Because if everything is God, if everything is God's light, let's say, and that's not the same thing, but back then they were sort of inseparable, so to speak, the creator and the emanation of the creator. And so something had to be taken away. There had to be something missing. There had to be something that was lacking in order for something to be filled. We fulfill that role as the image of God here in this world. Okay, so Rabbi Chia says that he hid away that light. Rabbi Abba says that he saw the light was good, that it's a good thing to keep it hidden. ויבדל אלוהים בין האור ובין החושך. Okay, so God separates light from darkness in the sense of eventually that light, right now it's light and darkness, but there's a difference between them. Having the dark is not, it's not just the, having the light is not just lack of dark, because remember, in the beginning it was darkness, in Bereshit. In the beginning, right, choshech al pnei tehom, darkness over the void, then let there be light, but there was something that let there be light, it doesn't say and there was light, it said let there be light and let there be light. And that first light that was spoken of was hidden away. And that's something that um, you can say it calls back to something that existed before the darkness. And that light later that is differentiated, right, sort of sunrise, sunset, day and night, the duality, that's something that's already in this world. That's something where there's a difference that's between worlds of light and darkness, and then there's a difference in this world of light and darkness that has to do with the sun, with a physical ball of, right, of helium and hydrogen, right? Okay, so, and now we say this is the fifth verse. I hope everyone's okay. I don't know. I'm reading. I'm not looking at the chat. Bo'eh tachaze. Come and see this higher light, which this light will shine. Oh, yeah, okay. So that light will shine a higher light. Not a light that is light and darkness of this world, of sun and moon, of yes and no, of duality. Or simchat hakol bo. From that light, from that original light, from that primordial light, that higher light, it says everyone's joy is in it. והוא הימין אל התעטר חקוקי החקיקות עמו, והרי נתבאר. Okay, so here's the thing. In the Zohar we have Hakika, Chatziva, we have Glifa, and those represent different ways in which God imprints that emanation in the world and where it comes from, in which of the 10 Sfirot. That's the first light that God gave, right? The Holy One, blessed be He, gave those righteous one who fear of sin. Vayehi erev. Right, and there was evening from darkness, and there was morning from light. And since they go together, it says one day. Okay. So, what is the question? Let's see. Let's see if I even have a way to address it, because the Zohar, as we know, as they say, is closed with a thousand keys. Ariel says, I take it that Don Corleone was fortunate enough to have the option to spend time with his family. Yes, I guess so. Mr. Big says the Sefer Yetzirah, after. Verse 5, it's the first page, he says, I use Sefaria. Oh, okay, so I'll use Sefaria as well. Hang on a second, we'll be on the same place. Sefaria Zohar Chadash. Zohar Chadash, Sefaria. Here we go. Bereshit. Okay, so I'm there now with you. Sefaria Zohar Chadash Bereshit. Here I am. Now can we discuss directly? Do you have contact info? I joined your panel a while back. Which is the right light? Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. But Kabbalah says that's not the beginning. No, that's not the beginning. It's in the beginning of this, right? It's not in the beginning. It's in the beginning of creation of heaven and heaven and earth is already a duality. In the beginning, created God. What's the beginning, Jonathan? What does Rabbi Yehoshua say in the Kabbalah? Which Rabbi Yehoshua? Which one are you talking about? Which? I'm not sure which Rabbi Yehoshua. Do you mean? I mean, you mean Rabbi Yehoshua in the Zohar? Did I not read the proper? Did I not read the proper verses or lines of Zohar right now? Let me know. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim et haaretz does not mean in the beginning God created heaven and earth. It means in the beginning of creation of heaven and earth. And in that bet of Bereshit, and in that first verse, and we know this from the Tikkunei Zohar, and we know that from there's everything is already in there. The 10 sfirot are there, right? We have the bet with its tail leading back to Keter, which is hidden. It starts with bet, which is the second letter of the alphabet. It says Reshit, right? Reshit Chochma. Reshit is Chochma, and that's the light that emanates from Keter, which means that, right? And the rest of it is that Zeir Anpin Nukba Tiferet Malchut, and everything is there. Hashamayim ve'aret, et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. That first verse outlines the 10 sfirot. And so in the beginning there was God, symbolized, right, by the Aleph, which is absent. You start with a bet, not with an Aleph. Kabbalah says that's not the beginning. It is the beginning of the Torah as it comes down to us here, because we live in a world of heaven and earth, of sky and of land. We live in a world of duality after the eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And the Torah was written right in the tongues of men for men, and by men I mean humans. Can you now turn to Yetzirah one after? Is that also in Sefaria? If not, then maybe link me so we know we're on the right. So we know we're on the right thing. Sefer Yetzirah. Okay, let's see. Where were we? I'll read in the chat and then we'll see. I'm deeps. It's deeps. I'm special. Not sure what you mean, Mr. Big. Rabbi Yosef is my rabbi. I debate Rabbi Aisha Mesa, who knows you. Yes, I had back in my old channel before it was deleted. I had a dialogue with Rab Mesa. What is the nature of your debate? I'm curious. Most Yehudi are not allowed to study, but I'm a Radai. In Hebrew, it means ruler. I descend from Yishai and David, his brother Radai. Radai? I don't recall that name, but he had 7 brothers, if I'm not mistaken, so I'm not sure. Radai. I don't remember that name. Light emanates, says Blood Nose, in all directions, but quantum action causes light to transmit using the shortest path. Yes, and even light itself, right, is a wave and a particle, and that's why you can't know, its exact place, right, its exact place in time, right, because it's always there's that idea of the spin, right, and not being able to pinpoint the particle, something like that, always in motion. No, it says in the beginning created God literally, but what does this mean? Well, the first verse outlines the 10 sfirot. That's that's what it means. It means, first of all, it says Elohim, and that's plural. Second of all, it says Et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Again, it's a duality of heaven and earth. It's that blueprint. That first verse is a blueprint of creation. So what it plainly means is in the beginning of creation, right, of heaven and earth, this is what Elohim did. And it speaks to the fact that we are traditionally now in the name that in the cycle 1 out of 7 that is associated with Elohim, what's called the second Shemitah, the second 7,000 years out of 49,000 or 50,000 actually. At least that's one theory. I mentioned it recently, right? The Shmitot. Most have gone crazy studying Kabbalah. Well, I know that I can see why that might be the case. I don't know if going crazy, but certainly something could be addled. However, all of the restrictions, as far as I know, on the written Kabbalah, not the oral one that's still passed on orally, but the written Kabbalah. The floodgates have opened, right, with the Renaissance and with the Arizal, and everything that to do with that period of time in human history. The Zohar and all the other books, of course, it's best to learn with a master. Of course, it's best um, to do it properly and not to go crazy. It's always good to remember that these are all allegories, analogies, metaphors, and none of this stuff is actually there, but it's a way for us to perceive it and a way for us to understand how we are supposed to act in this body, in this place, in this world, in this time. It's part of our journey, right? And purpose as the image of God. And there were many restrictions beforehand on the Kabbalah, and there were many, no, I don't know, rumors and different, a lot of aspersions cast on Kabbalah. And in the beginning, with Hasidut, it didn't help that they were very much into the Kabbalah, and there was a lot of, like I say, a great debate, a great controversy, and people, ugh, a lot of fighting. So some people have gone crazy, I suppose. But it also, look, the Kabbalah, I think that could cause you to go crazy more so is not the one that you read. It's not even the Kavanot. It's what's called Kabbalah Ma'asit. If you invoke the names of certain powers, be they in the positive or the negative, and if you what's called, let's say, lehashbia, right? If you make those spiritual forces and messengers take an oath, and if you say certain names and you act in certain ways, you breathe in a certain way, you think a certain thing, technically, it is possible to bring down certain revelations into the world. On some levels, it can be a mere technicality. However, if you are not worthy of it, let's say there's a very high angel, and you wanted to do your bidding, and you know because you study practical Kabbalah, Kabbalah Ma'asit, you know what names to think, you know what names to utter, you know what clothes to wear, at what time of day, and in which way to light this fire, light this candle, burn this incense, write this on a piece of silver. You know the procedure and the ritual to invoke this specific angel, and it will show up, and it will do your bidding. However, that's not the end of it. Now the ball is in his court. He has no will of his own. He has no will of his own. He is a messenger. But if you play with fire, you might get burned. And certainly the Kabbalah has been likened to fire, which can keep you warm and it can have energy, give you, provide you with heat and keep your food warm and whatever. However, it might not work out for you. I think people who go crazy are also the types of people who may be associating all of these allegorical, metaphorical, analogical, analogous terms and saying, no, this is actually real. All of it is absolutely real, and this is God, and that could really mess you up. And there are many things in the Zohar that are completely sort of go against the Torah because it speaks of higher things and it speaks in a higher language about, but it's meant for people here in this world to study and follow. And so it's a very, very tight rope that you need to walk, which is why it's best to do it with a master. Okay. Anachnu bo'atim. We kick Asher Meza. I don't kick him, as far as I'm concerned, since I'm not a man of strict halacha myself. I can't go. I can't. I don't. I can't judge him. I mean, I had a nice conversation with him, and I agree with some of the things that he says. I'm not one of his followers per se, but why are you against him? Why do you say you want to kick him? He's trying to turn everyone Jewish. I don't think he's trying to turn everyone Jewish, Mr. Big. I think that he's simply saying, be more like Hillel the sage. That when the person who wanted to convert, when the convert came to him and he said, "Teach me the Torah while I stand on one foot," he's told him, "What you hate, do not do to your friend, to your fellow." That is the entire Torah. The rest is commentary. Go read it and go finish it. Go finish it by reading it and understanding it. But I study deep Kabbalah, says Mr. Big. I want you to read the 10 Sfirot. It says rabbis lost their mind, says Mr. Big. What if we're special Yehudis? Well, every Yehudi is potentially special, just like every human being is potentially special. No, the spiritual is real, says Mr. Big. Hashem is above spirit. Yes, the spiritual definitely is real, but what do you mean real? You might mean something different than me. I know the way that spirituality reflects itself to me, and I know a little bit about the way that I am in a dialogue with my spirit and with the spirit of my ancestors and of that whole thing. And Hashem is above spirit. I agree. You can't, if you can perceive it, if you can, then it's not God, right? If you can identify it in some way, in some sense, in some through some means, it's not God. So it, yes, above everything. He is not spirit, but our spirits are. Yes, he is not spirit, like Memtet or Lilith. Well, no, the human being, the human being does not, the human being does not equal to a messenger. Right, Memtet, Metatron, or Metatron, depending on how on what his job is, with a yod or without a yod, he is a messenger. And Lilith, same deal. She is a messenger. She has a purpose. She has a role to play. So do we. In that sense, we are the same. We have a role to play. On the other hand, we have part of that role we have to play, or should play, ought to play, could play, want to play, is that image of God. And messengers are not that same image of God, because they might hold to a certain sphira. They might reflect a certain divine revelation in accordance with, like, people say that Metatron is the voice of God. People say that Metatron is in charge in the 6 days of creation, right? Nar, a boy, not a man. And Metatron is part of that divine revelation that goes into exile along with Israel, if I'm not mistaken. And I'll leave it at that. We, on the other hand, can embody all of it. It's like Memtet, right? That higher angel, Sar Hapanim Metatron. He is said to be equal, Shmo Keshem Rabo, Shaddai, right? The same Gematria and that whole thing. And there is part of that angelic presence that we call Memtet that is right before the curtain is lifted. Hmm? And in that sense, what you're seeing and what you're feeling is this, it fills you up. It fills you up in a sense that it's a real spiritual experience. And still you need to say no, but that presence is still a messenger. The human being, on the other hand, can personify in as much as they are a person, right? That image of God in a way that no angel can, because we have freedom of will, we have freedom of choice. When we hold to the Torah, the commandments, and the covenants, and we do them, and we choose to do them, and it's something that no angel can achieve, which is why we have the Torah and not them. Do you know the 10 Sfirot? Well, we all are the 10 Sfirot. It's all real. I agree. It's real in the sense that, again, I perceive it to be real. Mr. Biggs says, I can bring up to my friend who just finished study Kabbalah after 10 years. He's releasing a book. Good for him. What sort of Kabbalah has he been studying? Or all kinds of different schools of Kabbalah? Do you know what he's been into? Lehu Amel Begalel שהיהודים רעים, בגלל שהיהודים רעים, קרא כל אחד צריך להיות יהודי. Oh, הוא אומר, okay. So he's saying that, if I'm understanding you correctly, Mr. Big, you're referring to Rabbi Asher Mesa, who wants more people to be Jewish. I think all he's saying is, be more like that. Don't be like don't be like Orthodox rabbinite, right? Don't be like the Rabbanut who take who make it very difficult for people to convert. Make it easier for people to convert. As for what, there's that light there, it's annoying me. As for why he's doing it, you're saying that it's because of people that are Jews being bad, and so we need more good Jews, and so let more people convert, because those who want to convert presumably also want to keep the Torah and the commandments. Do I understand you correctly? And because of that, I mean, he's allowed to think it. Wait, hang on a second. I gotta stretch my legs. Oh, okay. Yeah, that'll be better. Wait. Oh, there we go. So he thinks everyone should be Jewish. Okay. I mean, I don't recall that that's something that he. I don't recall if that's something. Pardon me. That he said. Is this something that he? The light's bothering me. Is this something that he actually said, as far as you're concerned? Is that like a quote? Ariel says there is an owl right outside my window right now, and I am a man living on my own. If something bad happens to me, you can blame it on Lilith. Help me, he says. Says Mr. Big, איבדת את דעתך, אנחנו פראים, לאנחנו מיוחדים, הגויים, יהיב, העבדים שלנו. He blames us for Holocaust. Mr. Big, I gotta tell you, I'm not exactly understanding what you're saying with the Hebrewish. So I don't quite follow. Also, you didn't get back to me. You didn't get back to me on the original. What type of Kabbalah do you study? If you study Zohar, what commentary, if at all, do you study it with the Sulam? Do you study it with Or Yakar? Do you study it Matok Midvash? Are you studying it with a commentary of some kind? Or are you just reading the Zohar plainly? Are you reading it in Hebrew? Are you reading it in Aramaic? Are you reading it in English? So yeah, tell me. So yeah, you joined my panel. My voice cracked. You joined my panel a while back, you said, and yeah, I did that a few times. Wasn't a big hit, and I might give it another shot another time. So tell me, what about you wanted to discuss the Sefer Yetzirah as well? So please, what is? I am the British guy. Okay. What about Sefer Yetzirah? What is it? What about it? Is there a specific question about Sefer Yetzirah? Also, if you are studying Sefer Yetzirah, which commentary are you using there? Or again, are you just reading it plainly? Are you reading it in Hebrew? Are you reading it in English? Ariel says there was a Hollywood documentary movie about loads of interviews with people in Alaska, I think. Pardon me. Uh, that were recounting real experiences of people getting killed by aliens that took the form of owls. Oh, wow. Well, the owl, right? Nocturnal, predatory. Makes some sense that it would equate with the evil forces in the world. White light or something similar. I will look it up in a sec. Oh, okay, cool. Mr. Big says, "Can you expand the 10 sfirot?" I use Safaria. What do you mean? Can you expand? Do you mean can you have 10 sfirot beyond the 10 sfirot? Because that's every 10 sfirot has its own 10 sfirot. It's like a fractal. So I'm not sure what you mean when you say, "Can you expand the 10 sfirot?" Oh man, there's a crack in me back that needs to come out. I'll have to get a tennis ball or something and lie down on it. It's difficult. Speaking of newborns and stuff, it's difficult because I'm with my head down, right, more often. When I'm changing them, when I'm looking at them, when I'm holding them, and it's I need to take care of my back. I'm already in my early 40s. Got to take care of my back. Combine that with the fact that I haven't been to the gym in over a month. And this time, by the way, and I mentioned this, unlike the last time that I took parental leave and I just quit the gym for like almost a year, I'm not going to do that this time. I'm going to have a routine, God willing, here while I'm on a paternal leave, parental leave, and then after I'm back, still when I'm back at work, if I'm at the office, if I'm home, whatever, just keep the workouts going. Yes. Although, I mean, I didn't quit for an entire year and not do anything. Obviously, I still stayed active. I tried having Pinky around at the time. Walking her a few times a day was also highly beneficial, but now Pinky is gone. Pinky Winky. And so, less action, less physical activity. Like, go to it, read first page, the 32 paths. 32 paths. 32 נתיבות. Okay. Alright, so this is a ספר יצירה משנה א', a very very famous משנה. ב32 נתיבות פליאות חוכמה חקק יה אדוני צבאות אלוהי ישראל אלוהים חיים ומלך עולם אל שדי רחום וחנון רם ונישא שוכן עד מרום וקדוש שמו וברא את עולמו בשלושה ספרים בספר וספר וסיפור. That's the first Mishnah of the of Sefer Yetzirah. Now, in Pardes Rimonim, the Ramak goes in depth into all of those, the different titles. Also, there are different versions with a few more titles, a few less titles. This talks about how this divine revelation manifested itself in eventually in the physical world. Traditionally, Sefer Yetzirah is attributed to Abraham. Academically, let's say, it's associated and attributed to the early medieval period. It has a lot to do with astrology, with the body, and with the way that the human being corresponds to the sfirot. Also very famously, right? It has the 3 mother letters, the 7 double letters, and the 12 simple letters. Again, these are all things which correspond to different divine revelations and emanations. And it's 32, it's 22 Hebrew letters and 10 sfirot. That's 32. 32 is lamed bet, which is lev, which is heart. 32 netivot. 32 netivot pliot. So what do we have? We have amudei keter, right? We have tarach amudei or. We have lev netivot chokhmah, 50 sha'arei bina, meaning we have pillars of light corresponding with keter. We have paths of wisdom, chokhmah, 32 paths of wisdom, and 50 gates of bina, of understanding. These are all ways in which the divine revelation sort of came down the line, and from keter, chokhmah, bina, and then bina giving birth, so to speak, to this, eventually to this world. The 32 letters, the 32 paths correspond to the 10 sfirot and the 22 Hebrew letters. They are all paths to creation, from Keter to Malchut. The thing is that Keter is hidden. Keter is not spoken of. Keter is above, right? If we have Chokhmah that corresponds with the right lobe of the brain, then we have Keter, which is above. And so when we speak of the 32 paths, we don't speak of Keter. We speak of the revelation of Keter that Chokhmah was able to to be influenced by. Chokhmah is influenced by Keter. The 10 Sfirot linearly, let's say, right? Keter, Chokhmah, Bina. The Gimel Rishonot, the 3 top ones, the hidden ones, right? The ones that correspond with the brain and that is inside, that is hidden. And with the hair of the Nazarite, that root is also hidden. So, and of course also with the Tfilin Shel Rosh, the Tfilin Shel Rosh. So the 32 paths of wisdom, the 32 Netivot Chokhmah, is something which speaks of a higher revelation. It speaks it, right, let's say, through 32 paths. Okay. So, ברת עולמו בשלושה ספרים. ספר, ספר וסיפור. Okay, Sfar has to do with a place. Sefer has to do with something that can be read like a book. Sipur has to do with a narrative. And that's the first Mishnah. Was there a question associated with that particular Mishnah? Mr. Big, if you're still here. Read first page, the 32 paths. Okay, well, I mean, that's the first Mishnah. Do you have anything to say about the first Mishnah? Lilith is associated with the owl. The fourth kind. It's called the fourth kind. I see, that's the documentary. associated with an owl. Yeah, that makes sense. She is a, let's say, predatory sort of being that is more associated with the first half of the night. From her from her patience and finds. Oh, okay, wait. I'm sorry. Patience from the patients and finds evidence suggesting that she may have been abducted as well. I'm sorry, are we still talking about Lilith? What are you talking about? Yes, the three mothers, Mr. Big, is Aleph Mem Shin. The seven pairs is Bet Gimel Daled Kaf Pei Resh Tav, because you can say them Kaf Chaf Pei Fei Taf Saf or Taf or Thaf. The 12 simple ones, yes. What about them? What about them? Was reading, Ariel, I don't understand what you said before. The evidence suggesting she may have been abducted. I don't know what you're talking about. Are you talking about Lilith? Are you talking about something else? Also, what is jiggy jiggy? Mr. Big says, stop having jiggy jiggy then. I'm not sure what you mean, Mr. Big. Ariel says, was reading that some rabbis used to insist on their students would never sleep in a building alone in order to protect them from Lilith. Yes, that's right. That harkens back to the Talmud, if I'm not mistaken. It's not the Mishnah, it's the Talmud. I think it's the Gemara that says that a person should not sleep alone. A man should not sleep alone. Maybe are they talking about somebody who is single? Might be that they're talking more about somebody who is a single man, unmarried. Okay, let's see. Mr. Big says, "Ata yodea shehagoyim yihiv avadim shelanu." Do you know, or you know, the goyim, the nations, will be our slaves? Yehiv. What do you mean by yehiv? Yehiv is in Aramaic, and the rest of it is in Hebrew. So I'm not sure what you mean. Or do you mean yihiyu will be? Um, where are you getting this? What is your source for the nations being slaves to the children of Israel? Where is that from? I don't. Could you please? When is that gonna happen? I don't think I'd like that to happen. That's not too good. Oh, we should all be free. We should not be slaves. We should not have human masters, even if they're Jewish. Adonai should be our master alone. That's what we're shooting for. So, Mr. Big, what is it that you wanted? Okay. Yes. Okay. So, Eser Sefirot Blima. ו-22 אותיות יסוד. Yes, that's right. The 10 ספירות and the 22 letters. שלוש אימות ושבע כפולות ו-12 פשוטות, right? 3 mothers, 7 doubles, 12 simple letters. So what about them? What about them? That's the second Mishnah. Now, if you're interested, look, the teachings that I've been following for the past nearly decade are those of the Ramak. And for me, oh, this is how he starts the Pardes Rimonim. This is how he starts it. He starts it with the beginning of Sefer Yetzirah, speaking of the two covenants. That's in the third Mishnah, Brit HaMaor, Brit HaLashon, and the in the way that it connects to understanding this wisdom. And he talks about why it is a blima and the different ways that it is blima. Right, one word blima or two words blima. In the Safaria one, for instance, it's two words, blima, without what? Without essence. But blima is also a word, and in the Sefer Yetzirah that I recall, which was many years ago, I don't have it, in the Sefer Yetzirah that I recall, it is one word. But again, the Ramak gives both commentaries, gives both options there and speaks of them. Rambam expands more. Click on what Rambam says I can't copy. Okay. Mefarshim. So not Rambam, you mean Ramban. You mean, because Rambam, as far as I know, did not write a commentary on Sefer Yetzirah. Okay, and Ramban did. So what is it about the Ramban that you want? What is it that you want? What about what the Rambam? Okay, let's see. Oh, oh, God. Okay. ב-32 פירוש, בבית רמז אין סוף, כי בכוח אין סוף מציאות רומה לה, שממנה אצילות החוכמה, ומן החוכמה לב נתיבות נעלמות. ולפי שהן נמשכות בחוכמה מרום מעלה מאין סוף נקראים פליאות מלשון כי יפלא דמקדרגינן הרי יתכסה. ולפי שיש הפרש בין נתיב לנתיב נקראים כן, כמו פלאות שהוא מלשון כי יפלי לנדור, שהוא מלשון הפרשה. וכל נתיב ונתיב ימשוך מן החוכמה עד שהוא מגיע להראות כל נתיב ונתיב בבינה, כמה דעת אמר ומשך חוכמה מפנינים. Okay, so the Ramban says that uh, in the bet there is a hint of the Ein Sof, of the Aleph, and he says that from that higher emanation that we do not speak of, there are 32 paths that are hidden, or not hidden, but no, let's call it hidden, because there's nistarot, there's ne'elamot, there's gnuzot, but let's call it hidden. And it's called pliot from Pele. Pele harkens back to Aleph. Pele also harkens back to the Nazir, right? And he speaks here of this. And it's something which comes from Keter through Chokhmah into Bina. That's what the Ramban says. And he says Chakak. כוח עילת העילות אינסוף שממנו הכתר העליון רום מעלה, והחוכמה חקק והמציא כוח שנקרא יוד ה' שהוא בו כוח חוויות, ומכוח בינה המציא כל הבניין שהוא נקרא דעת. Okay, so that part of keter that is revealed in chokhmah, which is not all the keter, because part of keter remains hidden, but the part of keter that is revealed through chokhmah, right, there was able to be there a chakika. There was able to be there something where you, like hitting a stone with a chisel, right, and sculpting something. Vehimtzi koach siba, right? Out of nothingness, there was something. From keter to chokhmah. And that's yod hei. The name corresponding with chokhmah is ya, yod hei. Shehu bekoach havayot. And ya has to do with essence already. There's something you can speak of. It says chokhmah me'ayin timatze. Aval timatze, right? Chokhmah from nothingness will be found, from ayin, from the keter, but it will be found, right? ומכוח בינה המציא כל הבניין, שהוא הנקרא דעת. In other words, you have chokhmah, which is the father, right? The father gives the sperm. And then it's the mother that takes it and builds it into a human being inside of her. And all of it goes back to Keter, all of it goes back to Chokhmah, but the person who actually births the lower realms, that's Bina, that's the mother. And Bina has in it the revelations of Keter and Chokhmah which it receives. And they call that Habinyan. Habinyan is the name for the six Sfirot, right? For Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchut is thrown in there as well, right? Ze'er and Nukba, masculine and feminine, a world of duality. And he says Shehu Nikra Da'at. And Da'at is a very special Sfirah. Da'at is the higher form of Tiferet. Da'at is associated with Moses, our master. בשלושה ספרים, says רמב"ן, בשלושה שמות, הנקראים מהותו של שם שהם כלולים בו. I'm not sure what Ramban means by that. בשלושה שמות הנקראים מהותו של שם שהם כלולים בו. Let's put it this way. There is the name of God, right? There's Yod Hei Vav Hei. All kinds of names, but that's the main one that we speak of. And there are different names that are derived from Yod Hei Vav Hei. By Shlosha Sfarim, says Ramban, those Shlosha Sfarim are three different names that speak of the essence which are included in that, right? In the Yod Hei. Sefer v'Sfar v'Sipur, Gimel otiyot shel Shem, Yod Hei Vav. So the the Ramban says that the Sefer Sfar Sipur correspond to the three first letters, right? Yod, He, Vav. That everything is in it ad Ein Sof. In other words, the three letters Yod, He, Vav already have all of that creation within them, right? In that creation, which is here symbolized with Yod, He, Vav, the three letters, מתייחד באמצעות המהווה שהוא אין סוף. So let's put it this way. I don't know if when Ramban says Ein Sof, he means Keter, and I don't know if when he says Ein Sof, he means God, which is not